I think being a Jew in London, England, at the time that I was born, was an age of anti-Semitism. I grew up feeling as if I was on the outside. I hated the class system even before I understood what it was. My father was a musician, and we traveled around a lot. And during that time, when there wasn't work, all the home was packed up. And so basically, looking back, I realized that we were actually homeless at periods of time. And that uncertainty and the sense of being different, I think has given me a basic understanding of what it's like to be marginalized. That sense of being marginalized and being an outsider has never really left me. And that's what I can identify with, and I think that's one of the big motivating factors for me. I was involved in social work. I knew about deinstitutionalization. I live in the downtown core. I would see people on the streets all the time. I couldn't bear it. I just thought, how can this happen? Even the United Nations has called our Prime Minister to task for the fact that a country as rich as ours does not have a housing policy, a national housing policy. I'm part of something called the Multi-Faith Alliance to End Homelessness. Whether it's Hindu, Muslim, Jewish or Christian, there is all an imperative, a moral imperative to work, to do social action. For my faith, it's the Torah says, you're not supposed to finish the job, but you can never ever stop. And that's what drives us. I'm also part of the Interfaith Social Assistance Reform Coalition, ISOC. It's been around a very long time. That's more of an anti-poverty project. What encourages me is knowing what we have done. Because in 1995, the Social Action Committee of Congregation Dakinawam, which I chaired, put up a 133-unit co-op. I got a big group together from our congregation, and everybody agreed they wanted to do something. I went to a much larger congregation that has put up buildings before, and I said, maybe we could work with you because we're so small and you're so big. And they said, Valerie, how many people do you think are actually involved in this? 8 if we're lucky. And that really changed my mind, that wow, they can do it with 8 people, we can do it with 8 people. Oh, maybe I should go back a little bit to say I didn't know anything about it. I just wanted to do it. But what I knew was enough to get people on that board who do know. So there was a VP of TD Bank who worked in real estate. There was an architect. There were lawyers. A lot of us were from the soft services, social services, psychiatry, that sort of thing, who understood the issues. But we surrounded ourselves with people who knew what they were doing, and we got a consultant to guide us through it. If I can do it, anybody can do it, because I knew nothing about real estate, nothing about development. I just knew what needed to be done. So the key thing, I think, is never losing sight of the vision, no matter what. Well, nothing will change until you learn how to influence policy. Advocacy is on a continuum. So it's on a continuum from negotiation to confrontation. It takes a very long time. It doesn't happen quickly. With the children's rehab services, I was there for 10 years. But in the end, we brought in $24 million for the children's services from nothing, from 1993 to 2003. One of the things I really learned was that even if I absolutely loathed the policies, they were there really wanting to make a difference, just as I was. They just did it from a different perspective. So we would be appreciative of what they did. Then we would push or request for what we wanted. We would explain the situation. We would tell them how it would benefit them, being the elected official or the bureaucrat, if they were to do this for us. And we would use the same terminology that they use in their platform. So if it was somebody that thought about, the bottom line and smaller government, we would say, this is going to save you money by coordinating services. So you change the message without changing what you really believe in. You have to personalize it. It's a mixture between conceptual, hard-hitting advocacy and the actual personalizing of the story. I would always take a stakeholder with me. The parent telling the story of that child, or what it would mean to have a different service, was the one that drew the picture. You know, you have to go in and be solution-oriented. You have to tell the story so you capture their interest. You have to tell them what the benefits are, explain that you understand their position, show them the benefit of what you're asking for, and then you follow up. Keep the passion, you know, for sure. But it's a fairly cerebral process that you really need to do your homework. You need to read the policies, you need to read their platform, you need to use their words, and you need to demonstrate that this is going to be not only a benefit to the group that you're representing, but to the society as a whole. It really depends on what the issue is. At housing, for instance, it's not a vote getter. So whereas with health or education, that affects everybody's life at some point in their lives, so they can identify with that. But it becomes a we-they issue, that we have housing, what's wrong with them? And, you know, without realizing that it can happen to anybody. Yeah, sometimes it gets discouraging and you think, my God, we've been going on this so long. You know, since 2003, for instance, the provincial government has been saying they're going to bring out their housing policy. And they bring it out in drips and drabs and nothing really happens that we want to see happen, like new funding. But you know, if you don't do anything, nothing will ever happen. It provides me with a lot of personal satisfaction. But it isn't about me. It's about being able to do what you can do and knowing there's never enough time, really, to do it. Knowing that there were 70,000 people on the waiting list for housing, and actually being able to create a building that would house them. Knowing the individual stories, having worked it out of the cold, having worked with streets to homes people, knowing what their lives were like. I mean, if you allow yourself to dwell on that, you would despair. So knowing that there's something that you can do, which is, you know, overcome the challenges, whatever challenge we were faced with, like the developer walking away about a month before that they were going to open it and having to find another developer. The vision is, in that instance, we've got to build. We've got to open it. And that's what we're aiming for. And any challenge that comes up along the way, well, we've got a whole group of people who've got some smarts and we'll figure it out. If you don't do anything, nothing happens. I don't believe we should be doing this for people. I believe we should be doing it with them. You know that you can create policy and a policy can make a difference. I think you have to reach out and provide opportunities for people to plug in wherever they can. It is possible to make a change. It is possible to make a difference. You really have to want to, and then you figure out the ways of doing it.